Yanze Khenpo Sodargye Doner Molam Khenpo Ngakya Bangar Dangon Zanto Shirmurdo Tomba Dikji Janla Gi Shamsar Nachar Zergi Jagamsa Jawar Tiki Jano Yila Jimmy Benzo Zhang Lang Sorande Gurti Toban Pora Shinjilo.
Profound and subtle Dharma is rarely encountered in eons. Now we hear and follow it. May we realize the Tathagata's meaning. To liberate beings, please generate bodhicitta before teaching. Today we will continue discussing the Sigalovada Sutra. This Sigalovada Sutra will probably be covered next week as well. On Wednesday, Thursday and Friday we should have 3 consecutive days of lectures. Originally, both Thursday and Friday were specifically reserved for the esoteric teachings. However, some members of the esoteric class found it quite inconvenient to attend these lectures in person, which presented a challenge. So if you're interested in the Sigalovada Sutra, now people from all places and various locations can conveniently listen in. This way it will also be much more convenient and beneficial during the upcoming May Day holiday period, and it's also very convenient for those who may not wish to attend the lectures in person. So regarding this Sigalovada Sutra, we are actually thinking about this. There may be a few more classes, but I am not entirely sure just yet. We will see how things ultimately go. We will continue to finish the latter, more extensive part of the Sigalovada Sutra, completing our study. This time, as we carefully discuss the Sigalovada Sutra, it genuinely seems to be progressing quite smoothly and effectively. This is primarily because this particular text is relatively straightforward and easy to understand, compared to some of the other major and historically significant sutras and treatises. To ensure better understanding and accessibility for the audience, it should be a bit simpler in content and in its overall presentation. And it's also very closely and intimately related to our everyday lives and experiences. In this way, most people find it easier to accept. So, the feedback I've received here after teaching the Sigalovada Sutra is that it really benefits our practice of Buddhism in daily life, and also helps with how we truly conduct ourselves in the daily world. It provides a certain degree of assistance in these areas. At the same time, this is not just like Confucian thought, which is merely a philosophical doctrine for this present earthly life. It should also profoundly involve the next life and matters concerning existence after life, extending across many, many lifetimes, encompassing a vast and intricate cycle of being. So it is also intrinsically related to these various aspects. Therefore, I sometimes find myself pondering and reflecting, whether it's when I am thinking alone or contemplating independently, or sometimes when I'm reflecting before or after sleep, I feel that this time teaching the Sigalovada Sutra should be quite worthwhile. I hope that everyone here as well, after we ourselves have studied and finished learning, in the future, when the opportunity truly arises, we should indeed promote it within our own world. And as for what we commonly call promoting, it doesn't necessarily have to be through giving formal lectures or structured teachings. It's not necessary to teach the entire Sigalovada Sutra in its entirety, or to gather a group of disciples and then formally give a comprehensive teaching yourself. It doesn't have to be like that. Actually, some of the individual teachings within it, if you find certain parts particularly good and truly beneficial, you can often share those valuable insights with others as well. This too is a way of turning the Dharma wheel. This is also a way of spreading the Buddha's teachings. The knowledge we learn ourselves in daily life, if we frequently share it with others, this is also a way of spreading the Dharma. For example, what we just discussed earlier. If one does not mind the intense cold or the scorching heat and diligently practices day and night without ceasing, no endeavor will ever fail, and in the end there will be no worries or troubles whatsoever. This verse is also something that in our worldly lives serves as a truly important and significant message of encouragement and motivation for everyone, indeed. This is an exceptionally important principle. No matter what kind of activities or tasks we are undertaking, if we are not afraid of the biting cold, not afraid of the scorching heat, and not afraid of diligent and arduous hard work, and we strive day and night tirelessly, then in this world There is nothing that cannot be accomplished. There is no difficulty in the world that cannot be overcome, as long as you are willing to climb. As long as you keep climbing, anything in this world can be achieved. If what you set your mind to has already been accomplished perfectly, then you will not have any worries in your heart. You won't feel sad or distressed, and you will be very happy. So many of the significant achievements and accomplishments in our modern world come from what exactly? They come from diligent effort and unwavering dedication. And when we are truly diligent, we need to learn about many, many subtle, intricate, and complex aspects. For some of us, it might be due to our mindset. Maybe people should pay attention to the bigger issues. But when it comes to the finer details, they truly don't care. That's not acceptable either. If we pay very close attention to many of the intricate details indeed, then whether it's worldly matters or spiritual matters, they can all be accomplished easily. Therefore, everyone should consider, when we talk about spreading the Dharma and benefiting sentient beings, some of you may feel, I don't have any titles like Dharma teacher right now, or I don't have titles like Khenpo or Khenmo. Without these titles, maybe I won't be able to spread the Dharma in this lifetime. But that's not necessarily the case. In actual fact, some of us, truly really don't have much of a reputation, but can truly and profoundly benefit a great many countless sentient beings. Some individuals, although they may indeed possess a very good and widespread reputation, in the end, not only is it of no use, but it even brings a negative and detrimental influence to everyone involved. So sometimes, when it comes to cultivating and maintaining our mindset, we should always remember that every single bit of valuable knowledge and wisdom we acquire and learn, first and foremost, should be practically and effectively applied within the context of our own personal lives and experiences. And we should strive to try our very best to effectively utilize it in our daily lives. Another significant aspect is to thoughtfully apply it among the people who are around us, even our own individual actions, in our actual conduct. When we have these positive forces and these methods to adjust our minds, then if we act in accordance with the Dharma, if we truly act according to the Dharma, relying on the power of dependent origination naturally, it will bring a very positive atmosphere to our entire surroundings. So sometimes we also see many young people, whether they are exploring or discussing Buddhism, when everyone engages in such discussions, they are truly joyful. I think the true Dharma is spread in this way, and not through blind superstition, blind faith and the worship of individuals, or engaging in illegal acts to seek worldly wealth or fleeting fame. These are certainly not the true and profound teachings of the Buddha either. So, as we delve into and discuss the Sigalovada Sutra in detail, I sincerely hope that everyone present will take the time to deeply reflect upon and contemplate every single sentence within it, and repeatedly and deeply contemplate them. After carefully reflecting in any given situation in the future, you will always have the clear opportunity to readily apply them effectively. Some people say, I must go down the mountain now. Otherwise, I really want to spread the Dharma, but I truly have no real opportunity at all. Please, I beg you, let me go now. However, I assure you that I haven't tied anyone up in any way. Nevertheless, if you become too overly anxious, you might find that you are not able to go down right away. You might not even be able to find any disciples. Sometimes, without the truly significant merit from past lives, you may not be able to find disciples. Consider the period when the Buddha arrived, specifically between Devadatta and the Buddha. They would frequently avoid each other. So, when you actually go down, perhaps many of the disciples will completely ignore you. This is indeed possible, so sometimes there is absolutely no real need to insist on either going down or going up. As long as you have this intention, even if it's just a single person around you, you will gradually have the profound chance to teach and truly transform them. Now let's continue with the next important part today. The Buddha told Shansheng, there are 4 enemies who appear as close as family, and you should be very much aware of them and their potential dangers. This means that there are 4 kinds of enemies, but on the surface they seem just like your own family. They look like family members, but in reality they are very harmful to you both in worldly and spiritual matters. They are damaging, just like resentful enemies. They are exactly like enemies who bear a grudge against you. You should be able to recognize them. So what are these 4 kinds of people? The first is someone who cringes. The second is someone who flatters sweet words. The third is someone who shows you respect and obedience. And the fourth is a bad friend. These are the 4 types of people. There will be detailed explanations of these 4 types of people below. However, to provide a concise summary and express it in a straightforward and easily understandable manner, these initial 4 distinct types that have been previously mentioned and discussed here were also thoroughly discussed and elaborated upon within Master Huiyuan's work, the Treatise on the Meaning of the Mahayana. He also spoke in considerable detail about these 4 distinct kinds of bad friends. Among these 4 specific types of bad friends, the very first, those individuals who cringes, specifically refers to, because each of these particular behaviors, in fact, truly represents a different and unique characteristic of what constitutes a truly bad friend, illustrating the various facets of negative companionship. The first type of individuals, those who seem to submit out of a profound sense of fear, should be clearly understood and recognized as, on the surface, it seems like others are especially afraid of you, showing you great respect and awe. They appear completely obedient and extremely respectful. But in reality, they often possess other more hidden motives. It's not truly as it initially appears to be. This mainly refers to their underlying mindset and their fundamental way of thinking. These are indeed false friends who secretly harbor deep-seated fear within their very hearts. Then the second type. On the surface, they will often praise and compliment you and frequently speak of your many admirable virtues. But in reality, they are not actually that respectful toward you. They use flattery in their words. There are such kinds of bad friends. This is the second type, which refers to speech. The third type mainly concerns physical actions. On the surface, they consistently seem to be especially respectful, obedient, and remarkably compliant toward you. Alternatively, they appear to hold you in particularly high regard, showing profound admiration and genuine respect. But in reality, they are not respectful toward you. This refers to the body. These are the 3 aspects: body, speech, and mind. The fourth type, what we usually refer to as bad influences or bad friends, are those whose body, speech, and mind are all rather negative. On the surface, it might not be obvious, and they may seem just like family. But in reality, they are truly negative in body, speech, and mind. People whose body, speech, and mind are all negative, we often encounter such individuals in the world. Perhaps in our everyday real lives, we also frequently come across them. Maybe this is simply a reflection of the current state of our society, a pervasive and undeniable aspect of modern existence. Many people don't trust others. When people don't trust others, on the one hand, it might be because from a young age, it has something to do with your upbringing and the direction of your education. But on the other hand, there really are many people who act one way in front of you and another behind your back. To your face, they speak sweet words, but behind your back, their words can be extremely malicious. There's a scripture called the alternative translation of the Samyukta Agama Sutra that says, in private, they hurl extreme insults and slander you in countless ways. When they are in the dark, they will curse and slander you, and they will use all sorts of disparaging language to truly disparage you. But in front of you, they will praise you and call you a good and truly virtuous person. That is to say, when they are face to face with you, they will act very differently. They often use all kinds of effusive praise and flattering compliments, saying you are truly the only genuinely good person, that you are the only one who is so incredibly wonderful and exceptional. Perhaps it is a common occurrence that many people act precisely like this when they are directly in front of you, lavishly use all kinds of eloquent words and flowery phrases to commend and praise you. People like this are quite common in our society today. There are actually quite a lot of them, especially if you possess a considerable amount of status or significant wealth, or even if you simply present a dignified and respectable appearance, or if you are endowed with a certain profound amount of wisdom or remarkable talent at such times. It is common for many people to, in your presence and directly in front of you, say things that sound truly beautiful or incredibly pleasing to the ear. Some people who unfortunately lack wisdom will even readily believe it. Oh, that's absolutely right. The things others say to me are really like that, and I myself am the same way. I become especially smug and quite full of myself, feeling rather pleased. In the end, it truly feels like I'm floating high in the clouds, completely carefree and content. I start to truly think that I really have everyone praising me and my efforts, but in reality, that's not the actual case at all. Many people, especially those with a certain bit of status or a significant position, hear these kinds of compliments to their face quite often. But in reality, are you truly someone who really possesses perfect qualities? That's not necessarily true. Maybe people are talking about you behind your back. In actual fact, you might very well have many significant flaws in certain specific areas yourself as well. And perhaps others just haven't noticed these flaws. Even if others do notice, for the time being, for some particular reason, they might not necessarily expose them. So in this regard, people who truly possess wisdom should consistently refrain from allowing the praise of others to inflate one's sense of pride or self-satisfaction, nor should one become disheartened or dejected by their slander. You should stick to your own objective conduct. You should remain neither overly happy nor angry. This is very important. So, that's roughly what we've already discussed earlier. Next, each of these important principles will be explained in much greater detail. First, as was mentioned just now, there are indeed 4 distinct types of cringes. The Buddha told Shensheng that there are 4 kinds of cringes. What exactly are these 4 significant things? The intimidation we just talked about. First, the very first one, giving first and then taking away. If someone is truly respectful to you in front of you, at first they generously give to you. Whether it's bestowing upon you a good reputation or significant wealth, they first provide you with absolutely everything you might need. But in reality, this is not given to you sincerely. Later on, they will also take away what you currently possess. Among the 5 kinds of wrong livelihood, this is specifically called giving a little and taking a lot. At first they provide you with something rather meager and insignificant, and in the end they proceed to take away something much greater and considerably more substantial than what was initially given. This profound principle is precisely what is truly meant and conveyed by this. On the surface it seems like others are being very good to me. Every day they treat me to meals and are especially warm to me. I think, this is a good person, my good friend. But who truly knows when the opportune time eventually comes, when the necessary conditions fully ripen, their genuine and underlying intentions will undoubtedly be revealed. This is indeed the first significant aspect. The second crucial point is giving very little but expecting a great deal in return. They give only a small amount, but in reality they hope to get much more. Perhaps beforehand, this often happens in the world nowadays, for example by giving some gifts, or say some construction companies actively seek out local leaders or officials. And at first they might perhaps offer alcohol or cigarettes, then gradually, little by little, they might say, can you please give me this particular project? I can offer you this or that in return, perhaps something valuable. At first they just give a little more, but they hope to gain much more benefit for themselves. This also seems like a friend on the surface, but in reality it's a harmful friend. They will hurt you. Many of today's corrupt officials were once seemingly innocent individuals, much like this, for example, the influential bosses of large construction projects who gradually and subtly formed intricate alliances with various officials and shrewd businessmen. And in the end, after years of illicit activities, they inevitably find themselves in a truly dire and profoundly pitiful state. There are also situations like this. The third type, pretending closeness out of fear, because they may have encountered some rather frightening, even unsettling things themselves, and are truly helpless, with nowhere else to turn. At this point, when they really have no other options, they start to get close to you, as if you were family. But in fact, they are not truly respectful toward you. It's just that they've run into all sorts of troublesome issues themselves. There's also the type who gets close for personal gain, because they want to obtain some kind of benefit for themselves. Their closeness to you isn't truly out of genuine goodwill. It's most probably because they want to gain some personal wealth for themselves. Especially in today's society, many people will get close to you simply for the sake of money. There are actually quite a lot of people like this. They don't truly like you or sincerely respect you. But in order to achieve a certain goal, they start to get very close to you. So what exactly are these 4 distinct types called? They are officially called the 4 types of fearful submission. As for those bad friends, they always seem to harbor a deep sense of fear in their hearts. In front of you, they always act respectfully. However, they have deeply ulterior motives. We should also keep our distance from people like this, and especially in our real lives. We often say this in the world, don't we? When you are wealthy and successful, even your enemies will try to get close to you. But when you are poor, even your relatives may distance themselves from you. It seems there's a saying in the Miscellaneous Treasures Sutra. It expresses this very well. When wealthy, friends and relatives gather. When poor, they leave. Such friends should be quickly avoided. This means that when you are truly wealthy, everyone around you is your friend or a close relative indeed. But when you are poor or in a lowly position, the people around you will all distance themselves from you. For bad friends like this, if we recognize them early, it's best to distance ourselves from them quickly. That's a point everyone should be well aware of. After all, there have been individuals like this throughout history. Consider, for instance, a man named Su Qin who lived during the Warring States period. At first, he was completely obscure and lacked any notable reputation. At that particular time, his significant political ambitions had not yet been fully realized, unfortunately. Even his own wife, his own close relatives, his sister-in-law, and so on, all deeply resented him and consistently kept their distance. Later on, as his professional career gradually began to succeed and flourish, he became a rather famous prime minister. At that significant point, those very same people enthusiastically lined up for an astonishing 30 li to ceremoniously welcome him back. They immediately started treating him with extreme and profound deference, having once been incredibly arrogant and now utterly humble before him. Previously, they were all incredibly arrogant, displaying an immense pride, but later they became exceptionally humble, groveling and slithering like subservient snakes. They all showed him profound respect, treating him with great reverence. Many people in real life are also quite pragmatic and behave in the same way. I think I mentioned this a long time ago. There's a story in the Sutra of the Great Adornment. It's the story of Chengabacha. I wonder if any of you out there actually remember it. At first, the character Chengabacha was quite famous and well known. He was also a very wealthy person. At that particular time, all of his close friends and dear relatives treated him exceptionally well, but later on, for some unknown reason, he gradually became poorer and poorer. When he became poor, everyone around him distanced themselves from him. They even looked down on him and discriminated against him. Everyone bullied him. At that point, he felt extremely disappointed and heartbroken. Later, he eventually left his beloved hometown and subsequently started wandering aimlessly outside. After a period of wandering, he then went to the great Jin kingdom, traveling to another distant country. After he finally arrived in another country, he used his own abilities and developed himself in that new place. In the end, he became extremely wealthy. Then, when he was a bit older now, he decided to return to his homeland. When he came back, all of his dear friends and close relatives were eagerly lined up, ready to warmly welcome him. The welcome they gave him was exceptionally grand and magnificent, and everyone was overjoyed and filled with boundless glee. On that very day, he himself, dressed in the humble attire of a poor person, placed himself at the very front of the queue, while at the back of the line, there was a camel loaded with gold, silver, and jewels. All of his treasures were placed on that camel. Then his solemn procession slowly made its way forward. When they first encountered him, his close friends and relatives eagerly asked, "Where exactly is Jiabaja?" He calmly replied, "He's at the very back, at the very back, at the very back." Then, with genuine warmth and open arms, they continued their welcoming him, joyfully and enthusiastically coming out to greet him. But when they got to the very back of the area, they didn't see anyone at all. So, feeling a sense of confusion, they found themselves compelled to ask again, seeking clarification. The person at the very front of the line, the one dressed in ragged clothes, his friends and relatives were a bit confused. They went back to him and said, "Didn't you say he was at the back? How could he be at the back? Weren't you at the front?" He said, "The reason I said that is because the one you were welcoming wasn't me. What you were welcoming was money. The money was on the camel at the back," he said. "You came for the wealth, not for me. You came to welcome riches, not to welcome me personally. So it was absolutely right for you to go to the back to greet them properly. This is actually very, you could say, a rather realistic way of putting it. This phenomenon is actually quite common, including in our real lives. Sometimes when some truly wealthy and influential people arrive, everyone tends to be quite genuinely happy and pleased, but it's the very same person. Yet once this person has nothing at all, everyone tends to look down on them. Sometimes people are like this. The other day, the American media tycoon named Murdoch, he should be over 80 years old now. He's also very famous. It seems he has had several wives. Now he's on his fourth or something like that. It should have been in January last year. One time when he went to the bathroom, he accidentally fell to the ground quite suddenly. His life was in some significant danger at that very moment. At that critical time, all of his beloved children from around the entire world rushed over immediately to be by his side. So sometimes, even with parents, it's precisely the same situation. When parents are bedridden on a regular basis, usually no one comes to visit them. However, once people begin to express the sentiment that this individual might not survive or recover this time, a profound and widespread sense of concern starts to manifest itself among everyone. The underlying reason for their sudden and intense concern, however, might not necessarily be genuinely focused on his actual physical health or well-being. Maybe it's about what will happen after he's gone. So some successful big bosses, in order to test the hearts of the people below them, will pretend within the whole company or group to suddenly announce that they are not going to make it, that they've been in a coma for several days. At this time, the immediate people around them, except for a very few individuals, were closely observing the unfolding situation, including even those closest to them, start fighting among themselves for his valuable assets. They do not even bother to save him or visit him at all, not even once. It's only when he shows up himself that he realizes, when facing the greatest and most significant difficulties, or when he is completely gone from their lives, many of them actually care deeply about their accumulated wealth and material possessions. What do you call people like this? These particular individuals are truly and genuinely bad friends, and deep within their hearts, they harbor ill intentions. They have other motives. But on the surface, they act especially close to you and show you special affection. This is all done with a hidden agenda, and it is important to be aware of this fact. So when it comes to real friends, no matter what position you're in, whether you're thriving and successful or have fallen to the point of being a beggar, they should always treat you in the very same manner and never ever change. People like this, as we often say, are as precious as pure gold. If you look at pure gold, no matter where or when, its value never depreciates. So, when it truly comes to some genuinely good and loyal friends, their fundamental view of you will absolutely never change, no matter when or what happens. But in reality, most people are simply not like this at all, depending on their own needs. Maybe when you need something from them, you treat them the same way, but once you no longer need anything from them, even if it's your very own parents, even your closest friends and dearest relatives, and loved ones, you won't pay attention to them anymore. So when we study Mahayana Buddhism, we also need to distinguish between bad friends and good friends. A truly bad friend always has an agenda. But a truly good and supportive friend, especially when you are feeling utterly helpless or facing truly great difficulties, those people will always offer their genuine help when you need it most, without hesitation. There are plenty of people who will add to your joy when things are already going well, when you have everything you need. Many people will treat you with truly great respect and honor. But once everyone might experience this kind of situation, right? We see this in history as well, and we see it in our real lives too. There is nothing stable, nothing that remains unchanged forever. Everything is subject to change. But in the process of change, we may have some true friends who will not change because of personal interests, but others will change according to their own interests. This is something everyone should reflect on in their hearts, no matter what kind of attitude you have toward others. For example, some people say, I'm good friends with this person, or I have this particular kind of relationship with that specific person, you see. When things are truly going well, there will always be many people who genuinely care about you, especially when some of us unfortunately fall seriously ill or perhaps have absolutely no source of income and are consequently very poor. And others have absolutely no expectations from you whatsoever anymore. At that point in time, even those individuals who used to treat you with the utmost kindness and consideration will inevitably distance themselves and leave you from a considerable distance. Subsequently, they will proceed to go forth and seek people who can bring them more benefits and start to curry favor with them. This kind of thing happens. So this is also something very important for us to carefully consider and take into full account. Next, let's carefully consider the second important point, the profound significance of kind words. The Buddha in his teachings specifically told Shansheng that there are also 4 types of bad friends who love to speak flattering words, 4 kinds of behaviors. What are these 4 types? The first and most important point is this: always agreeing whether the situation is good or bad. It truly does not matter at all if this person does well or not. They will always go along with you. Ah, you did an excellent job. Wow, you're amazing. Your eloquence, your wisdom, your talent. Wow, it's truly and absolutely outstanding. I really and genuinely admire you. For example, whether what you are saying is good or not, some people just consistently keep praising you, regardless of the actual content. But in reality, deep down, they may not actually feel that way about you. They do it just to make you happy. So, for those who have even a little bit of ability, when others praise you, you shouldn't take it too seriously. Even for me, sometimes when others say things, I immediately become suspicious. If someone says, you spoke really well, I wonder if they have some ulterior motive, because I know I really didn't speak that well. If they say, wow, you're so handsome, that's definitely impossible. They must have some motive. If they say, wow, you're amazing, how could I be amazing? They must have some motive. That's just how I am. But if someone says, you didn't speak well at all, I actually truly think this particular person is quite straightforward and genuinely honest. Perhaps this individual either has some fundamentally wrong views or is just a very frank and straightforward person. Honestly, sometimes that is precisely what I truly and genuinely think, you know? So if someone always just goes along with good or bad, they may not necessarily be a true friend. They could even be a bad friend. That's one point. Then secondly, abandon and leave when facing difficulties. When you encounter some difficulties, when you truly run into things that are incredibly hard to move forward with, the absolute key is, at that very moment, the person you really trust, they will inevitably leave you. They'll distance themselves from you. When you face the greatest, sometimes we can observe this phenomenon in life as well, where some individuals truly do become ill, especially during their most desperate and vulnerable moments. The people around them will all leave one after another, even their parents. In the end, when they grow older and can no longer walk independently, even their very own children ignore them at that particular point in time. So, whether you choose to call them truly bad friends or genuinely bad people, the third distinct type is those individuals who secretly and deliberately block good things from ever coming to you. If there are friends or opportunities outside that could benefit you, or when good opportunities arise, these bad friends, they don't dare to openly oppose you or challenge your authority. But secretly, behind your back, they block and don't support you. If there is indeed some tangible profit or a benefit for themselves, they will readily and willingly accept the proposition and consequently will not actively block its progress. And when the discussion turns to your trusted friends, they might treat you a bit better to your face, but behind your back, they will often create all sorts of significant obstacles for you in various ways, even if it's just pointing out your minor faults. They'll do their best to actively block your valuable opportunities. That's the third distinct type. The fourth significant type is when you inevitably encounter some serious danger, a perilous situation. When they see you're in trouble, they push you away. This means that normally this person might not show anything and others can't tell, but once you encounter something critical, something truly dangerous or a real crisis, at that very moment, those people will push you away. They simply don't care at all. It's precisely like burning bridges after successfully crossing the river. At that particular time, they will completely exclude or outright reject you, effectively cutting off all your valuable opportunities. They will actively distance themselves from you and deliberately ignore you. Very often, some people, when you unfortunately run into significant difficulties, the people who are around you, will they genuinely come to your aid and help you? This is very important. For example, consider a person who has consistently been better at helping others. At that time, it is highly probable that everyone might naturally come to your side. We in Tibet have a common saying, when you are rich, you will have more customers. When you are poor, you have no customers. Of course, it would indeed be truly better if there were no guests. Otherwise, when poor, if there are many customers, even more embarrassing. So this is mainly about beautiful words. The 4 kinds of enemies who appear like family members. And these people on the surface truly all, they might say some very pleasant and seemingly kind things, but in the harsh reality of their true intentions, they are always cunningly deceiving you. They are not sincere in their words, nor are they genuine in their actions. In the ancient and profound Miscellaneous Treasures Sutra, I am uncertain if I have brought this particular point to your attention before. There is a story about a Brahmin, a rather unfortunate one. It might be a bit long, but I can certainly share it with everyone present here. There was once a Brahmin who had a remarkably young and truly beautiful wife at that particular time, but this wife really wanted to invite other young Brahmins over as their esteemed guests. However, this Brahmin had a kind of instinctive suspicion towards her, so he refused. Once, when the Brahmin's ex-wife's son fell into the fire, his wife, surprisingly, did not save him at all. The Brahmin, quite astonished, asked, "Why exactly did you choose to do that?" She simply and directly said, "Because he is merely a man. Ever since I got deeply and truly involved with you, I no longer wish to have any contact whatsoever with other men." After she had said this, the Brahmin trusted her very much indeed, and truly believed her words. He thought she was a very trustworthy and honorable person. Later, according to her explicit wishes, he thoughtfully invited some young, eligible Brahmins over. Afterwards, some of the young Brahmins unfortunately had secret and illicit affairs with his unsuspecting wife. In the end, when he found out, he was extremely angry and profoundly heartbroken. Then he abruptly left his home and went far away from everything. First of all, he was extremely disappointed in his wife, feeling that although she spoke quite well, in reality it wasn't indeed so. So, heartbroken, he left. He just couldn't stay any longer, so he left. After departing from his previous location, while he was traveling along the winding road, he eventually found himself staying in what was essentially a very old and somewhat rustic inn. He spent the entire night there, sharing the accommodations with a friend. The next morning, as they continued on their journey, when they reached the middle of the road, the guest said, "I have a small tree leaf right here on me, actually. This leaf must be from the inn where we stayed last night. It must surely belong to the owner of that place. Since I was a young man, I've always made a solemn vow to myself that I would never accept anyone else's wealth. I am determined to return this leaf to its rightful owner." So with patience he waited for him. He carefully took the tree leaf that was stuck to his clothes and then brought it back to the owner's house. Then he thought to himself, wow, this person is really very good. It's really hard to find such a good person. I should trust him. So he trusted him deeply and completely. Then they continued on their journey together. Later, he even allowed him to take care of all his valuable money and personal belongings. One time, when he went to the restroom, that particular person ran off, and he was utterly heartbroken. He truly felt that people like this just absolutely couldn't be trusted at all. He talked such a remarkably good game, presenting himself as someone of great integrity. He even adamantly wouldn't take a single leaf, but in the end, he cunningly took all my hard-earned money. Then he calmly rested under a large, shady tree. While he was peacefully resting under a tree, he noticed that there were many birds, a multitude of them, present in the tree, and then, quite remarkably, a stork arrived. This stork had gathered and was carrying grass and leaves in its beak. It came with a clear intention to help the flock of little birds. They worked together to construct a sturdy and comfortable nest high up in the branches. At that very moment, he observed with interest that as the stork was actively helping them with their construction efforts, the little birds trusted it very much as well. They lived together in harmony, And eventually, after some time, because the little birds had already come to fully trust it, and then later, when the little birds flew out one time, the stork broke all the little eggs behind them and ate them all. When the little birds came back, they were very sad. He realized that, in fact, there are also many bad things among animals. He felt especially sad about this particular situation too. Then, as he continued on his journey, he pondered his next steps. He met a Brahmin monk. As they traveled together on their journey, the monk consistently kept chanting, "Go away, sentient beings! Go away, sentient beings!" So he then asked him, "What exactly does go away, sentient beings truly mean?" He replied, "When we walk, if I say, 'Go away, sentient beings,' like this, it means that little ants and such should move away, otherwise we might step on and kill them. Since I was very young, I have never intentionally harmed any living, sentient being. My ethical precepts are exceptionally pure and unblemished." Then he thought, "Wow, this person is really good. I want to be with him," when they indeed stayed together in the same room at night. He said, "It's not okay to stay in the same room. I want to go to another room. I have other places to stay." Then, when he stayed in another place, at night he heard many women's voices again. When he just quietly took a careful look there, he found that there was actually a tunnel underground. He was engaging in some playful, improper behavior with them. When he saw all of this, he said, "Of all things under heaven, whether human or beast, none can be trusted." He said, "Of all the things under heaven, whether they be people or beasts, there isn't a single one that can truly be trusted. They're all inherently bad." That's precisely what he said. So in fact, here we also, maybe this King Solomon was just truly unlucky, but perhaps in our real lives as well, some people often and quite frequently encounter very bad people indeed. This one deceives you, that one deceives you too, and they often suffer from this. So the words that come out of their mouths might sound pretty good, but if someone lacks wisdom and hasn't observed things carefully, they often get deceived and taken advantage of. Just like it says in the Samyukta Agama Sutra, "Words of love are spoken, but the heart is not truly in accord." They say all these especially affectionate words, but sometimes what they say doesn't match what's in their hearts. So what they actually do is quite different, and the truly wise should always be aware of this. So for some individuals, what they verbally say and what they actually do are not at all the same. The wise should have the discernment to make their own choices. If you lack the wisdom to discern and choose, then whenever someone says something, you just go, "Yes, yes, yes." Actually, some of us are especially trusting by nature. This includes those who rely on spiritual teachers or depend entirely on good friends and just simply listen to whatever others might say. Because in this particular regard, especially those individuals who truly love to deceive others, they are truly very professional and highly skilled at it. They possess a deep understanding of what a person's interests are, what their specific pain points are, and what kind of language can immediately resonate with them. This is very much like some of the effective and sophisticated marketing strategies employed in business today. They start by conducting some initial research, observing people to see what their preferences are, what they like, carefully observing, and after they've finished observing, they begin to lay out their plans. So sometimes why do some Buddhists nowadays often encounter this so-called fake guru, or that one actually in part? There really are some fakes. But if there's a market for fakes, it means there's a market of the superstitious. Because we are so profoundly confused and disoriented, there are some individuals with ulterior and hidden motives who cunningly use this particular method to their advantage. Draw us deeply and completely into their intricate web. If each and every one of us, whether studying the profound principles of Buddhism or actively engaging in any other endeavor in the vast and complex world, for example, some discerning consumers in the bustling market, if they have a certain level of wisdom, then many of the numerous counterfeits in the entire world would not be able to appear at all. But because our inherent human desires are especially potent and incredibly strong, and we ourselves, as individuals, frequently lack the fundamental and crucial ability to accurately and reliably discern what is genuinely true from what is unequivocally false. At this time, there are currently some people who harbor deep-seated malice within their hearts and minds, who seize the opportunity. Once they have the chance, they tend to disregard everything else completely and use their own methods slightly. to draw us completely into their intricate web. So it is precisely the same when it comes to diligently studying the profound teachings of Buddhism. Now, generally speaking, however, everyone also observes spiritual teachers and is not so blind in the entire process of spiritual practice. For most people, it is important to note, I think there has been progress now. Whether people are relying on spiritual teachers or not, no matter which Dharma they are studying or what they rely on, whether they are seeking profound empowerments or requesting certain specific teachings, this can all be considered a kind of deep aspiration. When you aspire to any kind of significant wealth, whether spiritual wealth or material wealth, in your life, you must first carefully observe and then thoroughly examine. If you have this discernment, in the end you truly won't have any regrets. If you haven't examined things carefully, and if you also happen to lack particularly profound and extensive wisdom, then if you proceed to act so impulsively and hastily, in the end, you will inevitably also be deceived in numerous and various ways. This is a crucial and significant aspect that we should all be acutely aware of and constantly keep in mind. When we see people treating us like this, we should all maintain a sense of vigilance. This is also very important. I don't really know who just brought this over. Someone brought it here. There are both the sun and the moon here. The sun and the moon. Nowadays, in many different places around the world, people are paying even more attention to this, which is actually very good. If you combine the radiant sun and the luminous moon together, in Chinese that forms the character Ming, which truly means brightness. This profound brightness is the complete opposite of ignorance. It should be clearly understood as true wisdom, a deep and insightful understanding. Wisdom truly cuts through all evil and wrong paths, guiding us towards righteousness. That's the meaning behind it. And if you separate the sun and the moon, many of the principles of yin and yang in our world are contained within them. Whether it's other religions or indeed within our own profound Buddhism, the essential wisdom and skillful means encompassing both the ultimate and the conventional truths, whether it's yin and yang or day and night among the many, many opposing phenomena, this can be seen as a symbol of the union of appearance and emptiness. This also carries a very profound meaning. So, whether you are a devoted believer or not, the radiant light of the sun and the moon shines brightly upon the entire world, illuminating all corners. As for the sun and moon, whether it's the sentient beings of the so-called 5 continents, or all the sentient beings of the 7 great oceans, all indeed truly like and indeed need the light of the sun and the moon. In places without the illuminating light of the sun and the moon, they exist in profound darkness. In the same way, the profound wisdom and boundless compassion of the Dharma, the radiant light of wisdom and compassion, is also earnestly hoped to pervade the entire world. This is true whether you have faith or do not have faith. We do not need sects or religions, nor do we need any restrictions, nor do we need anything else. But what we do need is a profound power that shines upon all things, much like the sun and the moon, bringing essential nourishment and significant growth to every sentient being. This kind of profound power indeed is exactly the fundamental function of the sun and the moon. So just now when I saw it, I thought it was very good too. As for our radiant sun and the glowing moon, it truly doesn't matter where you choose to place them. On a delicate teacup is perfectly fine, and on a simple notebook is also entirely acceptable. On clothing is fine too. If it's on clothing, it's actually quite fashionable, but on this, it probably doesn't look very good. But some of us do have this kind of thing. It doesn't represent a religion. Our ideas can represent a religion or even a belief system, or they cannot represent any particular religion. Because as for the sun and the moon, if you were to ask which specific religion they truly belong to, it's quite difficult for us to definitively say. The sun and the moon, for instance, represent a kind of brightness, a kind of wisdom. This wisdom can dispel the darkness, ignorance, and foolishness in the continuum of sentient beings, and it can also dispel the dark causes within our own continuum. So, in the past, we also heavily relied upon the profound blessings of the Venerable Sangha, the enlightened Buddha, and the sacred Dharma. We earnestly hoped that wherever people might happen to see our distinctive sun and moon symbols, no matter where they might encounter them in their daily lives, in their mental continuum, they could truly give rise to both ultimate and conventional bodhicitta. Just like when someone observes the sun or the moon and light appears, allowing them to clearly see various forms, we hold the very same aspiration. We earnestly wish that in our own mental continuum, may all of us truly attain the happiness of the blessed Three Jewels. Today, I posted something on my Tibetan Weibo account. It was specifically about the profound collection of essential Dharma's sutra. Previously, we consistently used the chapter on dependent origination. However, in this particular text, it clearly says, but the translation there is a bit different from mine. The arising of the Buddhas is joy. The teaching of the true Dharma is joy. The harmony of the Sangha is joy. For those in harmony, happiness is born. This means there are 4 great kinds of happiness. What does this mean? It means that when the Buddha is born into this world, it brings happiness to sentient beings. The true Dharma being taught in this world brings happiness to sentient beings. When there is no conflict within the Sangha and everyone is in complete harmony, it also brings happiness to the entire world. This kind of happiness is something all sentient beings truly need. So if we have all the truly essential causes and conditions for such happiness, I think it is also thanks to the radiance of the sun and moon. If the radiant light of the sun and the moon truly exists and shines brightly in this world, it should also bring happiness to all sentient beings. The beautiful lotus that gracefully opens up to reveal wisdom, there are many causes and conditions. This is something I happen to notice here. However, in our Larangar, we are absolutely not permitted to wear this particular type of hat at any time. If for any reason someone here is observed wearing this particular hat, the manager will promptly expel them from the premises. Monastics are not allowed, but maybe lay people can, I'm not sure. But perhaps it is quite really okay. Larangar is quite traditional, deeply rooted in its established customs and long-standing practices, which shape its overall approach and regulations. So sometimes we are permitted to wear external symbols on top of our attire, such as certain badges, pins, or other meaningful adornments, and this is indeed allowed and accepted within their guidelines. Next, we will now proceed to discuss the third important point in our agenda. There are 4 things to respectfully follow. What are these 4 things? The very first thing to do is to deceive first and foremost. You might not even realize it yourself. In the past, he may have had all kinds of motives. This is what a bad friend would do. Then, with cunning behavior, he deceived you. This is deceiving first. As for deceiving later, you might not know it yourself. These bad friends will undoubtedly deceive you in the foreseeable future. They will also employ various cunning means and deceptive tactics to trick you. Even at this very moment, you might not be fully aware of their true intentions and the extent of their manipulative schemes. But despite your current lack of perception, they will still relentlessly continue their efforts to deceive you. It seems that in the Madhyama Agama Sutra, this is called the present matter will certainly perish. When this kind of thing appears before you now, in reality it is not their true and authentic face. They are actually just pretending to be something they are not, and it's quite evident. For some of us it might be the case that, for example, your relatives around you seem to treat you very well on the surface. But in fact, they have always been deceiving you in the past, and are still deceiving you now, and will continue to deceive you. That kind of person is called a bad friend. Then the 4th type is, when they perceive even an insignificant or minor mistake, they will immediately and disproportionately punish you for it. When they notice even your most trivial or smallest faults, they will instantly and aggressively make a very significant and damaging deal, then relentlessly slander you by any and all malicious means necessary. They are constantly nitpicking you. Even when they perceive just a very tiny bit, some individuals are simply like this. They often bring a significant amount of trouble and difficulty to you. At first, when I didn't know them, things were a bit better. Otherwise, they are around me every single day, just like Devadatta. Many of them just absolutely won't let go. Even if it's just a tiny, insignificant wrongdoing, as soon as they clearly see it, they will react. They start to magnify it under a microscope, constantly blowing it out of proportion. Then they bring you all sorts of trouble. Such people are indeed called bad friends. When it comes to these bad friends, they are indeed quite frightening, especially for us ordinary people who might find them truly terrifying. It's especially painful as well, because at the beginning you didn't observe carefully, and the reason you didn't observe. Later on, even if you want to leave, there's nothing you can do. If you want to rely on them, you can't stay. And you can't go on living like this either. So at the very beginning, you must observe carefully. Otherwise, some of their behaviors are truly impossible to see through. Precisely because of this, Mipham Rinpoche also said in the treatise on the modes of a ruler, the cunning often appear outwardly respectful and are pleased solely for their own personal ends. Being happy for a specific purpose is not truly genuine happiness. Therefore, before you have observed and understood someone thoroughly, never trust anyone. What this means is that some cunning people may seem to really like you, but that's not necessarily the case. They may appear especially respectful toward you, but that might not be true either. So, no matter who it is, it's best for you to observe them carefully first. Otherwise, when the time comes, you'll think, wow, I shouldn't have done that back then. But by then, it's already too late. So right from the start, just like people in our world today, they don't trust anyone. From a young age, even children are taught, don't trust anyone. These people are all bad. Nowadays, some parents in the West also give their children this kind of education from an early age. But at the very beginning, maybe this is necessary. It's not that you should completely distrust everyone. If you look at our world, there are also many kind-hearted people. If you can't trust anyone at all, that might not be right either. But at the very beginning, before you've observed someone, before you figured out what they're really like, you really shouldn't trust them so easily or without careful consideration. Of course, this observation process may indeed take some time. A person's true colors are hidden inside, while a tiger's stripes are on the outside, so usually we can't see through people at first glance. Someone may seem especially nice to you, but over time, as the days go by, a person's true heart is revealed. Gradually, you'll be able to see it, right? Otherwise, at the very beginning, some people are very good at hiding their true selves. They don't reveal themselves at all until the right moment. Only then do their truly bad deeds become fully exposed. This is precisely how it happens. It's genuinely really hard to observe this beforehand. No matter what, there are indeed some people you absolutely need to watch very carefully. That's the third crucial point. Fourth, there are actually also 4 types of really bad friends. So what are these 4 types? The first is what we mentioned earlier, friends who drink alcohol with you, specifically those close to you, what we often call drinking buddies or fair weather friends. They're very often found at the dining table, but these particular people aren't necessarily very reliable at all, you see. Everyone should be aware of this. For Buddhists, perhaps in this very specific regard, there are very few of these drinking and meat-eating friends. In the past, many people used to drink, smoke, and eat meat. But now that's all gone. And when that's gone, a lot of people start to have opinions about you. They'll say, how come you used to be like this? And why have you suddenly become like a monk now? Why are you like this? Don't be like that. As if being a monk means you are truly like a cold, hard stone, completely numb and utterly unfeeling. How did you ever end up becoming so much like a detached, emotionless monk? Now the second type. As we mentioned earlier, there are indeed some friends who are always gambling. These particular kinds of friends, as we have observed, also very often do certain things. We've already thoroughly talked about this before, haven't we? I won't elaborate on these, since we've already discussed them earlier. Then the third type, friends who indulge in debauchery. They also engage in bad behavior, colluding with each other to do wrong. People who behave like this. And then the fourth type, as mentioned before, are friends who are only around for singing and dancing. And this kind of singing and dancing is not the ordinary kind we usually talk about. It refers to friends who engage in impure behaviors through such singing and dancing. These are called bad friends. These are the 4 types of bad friends. Actually, when we talk about bad friends here, we are referring to those who negatively influence us. It's just like the 4 types of bad friends we mentioned earlier. The Maharatnakutta Sutra also talks about this, staying away from virtuous teachers, always associating with bad friends. Some people often distance themselves from virtuous teachers and are always close to bad friends. In this way, one follows their teachings and repeatedly falls into various evil destinies. Because later, as you follow the guidance of these bad friends, you gradually end up falling into the 3 lower realms, which is truly terrifying. Even in this very life of ours, the most frightening thing is bad friends. There are even some great monks and accomplished masters, such as Atisha, Longchenpa, and Patrul Rinpoche, including the 6th Patriarch as well. All of their words are about staying away from bad friends. So everyone should still Regard bad friends as something truly very important to be extremely cautious about in this life. Next, the Buddha then further expounded indeed the above verse. As for the above verse, it seems that in Jifadu and the Madhyama Agama, each particular set of 4 topics we previously discussed consistently ends with a concluding verse. You can take a look when you have time. In the translations of the Madhyama Agama and the translation of Jifadu, each typically ends with a final verse. However, in the Durga Agama, there isn't such a similar structure. There are only 2 verses that serve as the conclusion for the entire text. At that time, the Buddha spoke. What we mentioned, fearing but still associating closely, that is one type of bad friend. Then, drawing very close with sweet and gentle words, a bad friend who approaches you with flattering words is the same. This is indeed the second distinct type of bad friend. As for the third, showing outward respect and obedience but being inwardly deceitful, on the surface they show you great respect and obedience, but in reality they are deceitful and approach you in this way. This is the third type of bad friend. Then, as for the fourth type of bad friend, that refers to those individuals who engage in activities such as gambling, excessive drinking, and other similar detrimental behaviors. These kinds of bad friends, who often lead others astray, are precisely what are known as bad associates. They may appear to be like relatives, but in reality they are harmful to you. They are no different at all from enemies who bear you resentment. Therefore, we should keep our distance from such people. Such friends are not to be relied upon. We absolutely cannot depend on or truly rely on these truly bad friends. It is imperative that the wise should always be aware of such individuals. Those with wisdom should truly use their intelligence to recognize this important truth. Recognize what exactly? That we should just distance ourselves from them as soon as indeed possible. What danger is there if we don't keep our distance? You will definitely fall into a deep dark abyss, which is truly terrifying. So, it's just like escaping from a dangerous, perilous path. It's an especially dangerous and formidable place, so no one dares to get close. Below is a very deep flowing river, and above is a towering, imposing cliff. If there is only a very narrow path above, would you dare to cross it? Of course not. If you're not careful, you'll definitely fall into the river below, and that's a dead end. There would be absolutely no chance whatsoever of survival at all. In the same way, in our worldly life, if something is harmful to your actions and your wisdom, if it endangers everything about you, then try your very best not to often eat, drink, and have fun with them, because whether it's for your own personal study, deep contemplation, and diligent practice, or indeed many of your actions in the world, in fact, many are influenced by bad friends. I've visited many prisons. Every time I go into a prison, there are some people. Actually, I have some very good friends in prison, because I can really connect with them in conversation, but in fact, they still carry a sense of sadness. But actually, when talking with them, some committed crimes in a moment of anger and ended up in prison as a result. For some, it was because of bad friends. Most cases are related to bad friends, because in society there are many people who say, this is how you should invest, it's so great, or this is how you can scam money, or this is how you do all sorts of things. These are the bad friends we mentioned earlier. A lot of people are like this. At first they appear to think these people are actually very good, but gradually over time, in the end, they themselves can't help it and become overly indulgent and start committing all kinds of truly bad and very wicked deeds and actions. Eventually they end up locked in prison. So whether it's abroad or right here in our very own country, no matter their ethnicity, among those individuals incarcerated within the most terrifying and formidable prisons in this life, a significant number of them actually possess very kind, compassionate, and genuinely good hearts. Some people truly are very kind-hearted. Even in prison, they should have become truly remarkable philanthropists. They still have many qualities, including some who have faith. Some of them are nevertheless truly good people there, but because of their past, because of their environment and circumstances, because of their education, or for various other compelling reasons, every single person has a rather fascinating story. Sometimes I talk to them, and I say, it's just that your fate is a bit different from ours, that's all. It's very possible that if we had ended up in your situation, maybe all the conditions would have come together as well. Some of you, if compared with us, perhaps you would still be in the world, maybe not recognized by society, but sometimes I think this way myself. So whether you are a dedicated practitioner or not, and truly no matter what kind of person you are, when it comes to those so-called bad friends, the so-called bad friends, this is something you can see here as well. Some dedicated practitioners, monastics, and other devout individuals, when looking at what was mentioned above, it really is very important. Maybe in the past we truly enjoyed drinking, we truly enjoyed gambling, and we truly enjoyed all sorts of other things, and we went to many unwholesome places and engaged in various undesirable activities, without realizing that these were not good. But gradually, over time, for both this life and the next, all of these have different effects. In this way, everyone can live a pure life. Actually, a pure life, on the surface, it may indeed seem quite monotonous and not particularly meaningful. But in reality, this kind of life is far away from suffering. Just as it is described in Nagarjuna's letter to a friend, if your body becomes increasingly itchy, as time progresses, you will increasingly feel more and more compelled to scratch and vigorously rub the affected area. But if you don't have such an illness, then you are even happier. So in our worldly life, many of the pleasures of the 5 desires are like this. If you don't seek them, look at how many monastics there are, how many pure practitioners there are. In fact, the lives they lead should be very joyful, very simple, and very humble. In this way, human life truly becomes meaningful. So, the principles we've discussed above, I hope everyone will reflect on them deeply. Especially what we've talked about here today. Perhaps there are a bit more negative aspects. No one should place their trust in these things. In this regard, it might not be like what we discussed earlier about cultivating a pure mind, where everyone is a bodhisattva. Because each scripture has a different approach, so when we looked at it before, it was all like, oh, even animals are bodhisattvas. When we talk about the Vimalakirti Sutra, everyone is like a Buddha or bodhisattva. But today it seems like everyone is a bad person and none can be relied upon. Of course, there is reason behind both perspectives. We need to analyze things using different methods. In this way, it will be helpful and meaningful for our own practice. All right then, we will stop here for today now.
Bandangara Badna Sodargye Bandangara Badna Sodargye Bandangara Badna Sodargye